Great, we are ready to start. Hello, everyone again. Thanks for joining this webinar. This is the number 14. We are really proud of what we achieved this couple of years. And this is going to be the last one before our summer break. We will let you know as soon as possible when we will have another date after August. And today's topic is about indoor photovoltaics. I'm really happy to welcome our guest, Dr. Mojtaba Abdi-Jalebi from University College London. Mojtaba is an associate professor at the UCL and leads a group working on new material for solar cells, lighting, and sustainable energy tech. Today, Mojtaba is going to show us how to boost the efficiency of wide bandgap perovskite solar cells for indoor application through triple passivation reassembly. It's a great pleasure to have you here with us, Mojtaba. You are a very good customers of Fluxim, a very good sponsor of our products. The floor is yours. Thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you so much, Daniele. Thanks for the kind invitation. I'm going to share my screen and then I'll start my presentation. So if you can just confirm that you can see my screen, that would be fantastic. And I use my laser pointer as well. All good?
You can.
All right.
Great. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So let me also pop down this Teams window. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Daniele, for the nice introduction. And hello, everyone. I'm Mojtaba Abdi-Jalebi, and I am associate professor at UCL, University College London. And I'm going to talk about perovskite photovoltaics today in general, and I will be focusing mostly on indoor PV. Right, this is the content of my talk. So a brief introduction about myself and our institute, then about the perovskite solar cells, passivation strategies, chemical modification, and I'll mostly focus on our new work that we published recently in Advanced Functional Materials on triple passivation for indoor photovoltaic. And if time is allowed, I will also show some results from stability and also scalable perovskite as just some sort of news. All right, so I'm from UCL Institute for Materials Discovery in London. So we are located in central London, very close to British Museum. And this is our building. If you happen to be in London, feel free to contact me. Happy to have a chat with you. So our institute, in our institute, we focus on various type of research, including from energy-related, like energy storage, energy generation, and energy sustainability, and also on healthcare as well as AI and data-driven material science. So you can see a lot of pictures here in this slide that shows various types of research that we do in our institute. In my research group, I mostly focused on functional materials and energy devices. So I'll sort of, in our group, we focus on developing semiconductors and nanomaterials, study their properties, using advanced characterizations, and also depositing them on using different techniques from roll to inkjet printing, etc. And in terms of devices, we focus on optoelectronic devices, where that includes like solar cells, LEDs, detector. And the other parts of my group works on electrochemical devices for green fuel production, such as green hydrogen or CO2 reduction to different types of fuels like methanol. So particularly on the optoelectronic materials and devices, we focus on, perovskite has been one of the key materials that I've been working on in the past decade, playing with its dimensionality and also changing its composition to reach different properties for various applications, ranging from solar cells to LEDs to crystals to lasers and also to detectors. And the other parts that in my group we were working with, I'm not going to talk about that parts today, but it's just for your information that I also work on electrochemical devices for green hydrogen production. And we sort of integrate the solar photovoltaic, in particular perovskite PV, with the water splitting devices for production of hydrogen, or in a new project that we have been working on these electrochemical devices in this nice schematic. As you can see, we capture the CO2 and convert it to methanol and use it for fuel cells or different applications. All right, so my motivation to work on this type of research is one of the key motivation is to help to combat climate change battle, or also for the other global challenge, so-called clean and affordable energy. So one of the challenges here is, as you can see in this nice sort of plot, that shows the temperature rise over the past decades. So this part of the graph is showing the pre-industrial period from 1850 to 1900. And normally when we call 1.5 threshold, we are referring to temperature rise from pre-industrial period, the temperature, the global temperature. And unfortunately, we have reached quite close to this threshold already. And what is this chart is showing that if we are here now, let's say this is back in 2023, but it's not too far from where we are now. So it shows that we are very close to this threshold, and if we don't do anything in the next couple of years, we can already reach this threshold, which is not good, because if anything happens after this, it can cause a lot of damage. As you can see in this slide as well, it could cause extreme weather events, sea level rise, global temperature rising that can cause a lot of changes in our ecosystem, and also impacts the biodiversity, which are, some of them are irreversible. And I'm sure you have seen this part as well. This is I got actually from BBC Weather and BBC News, that shows this heat wave that I think for those of you who are in Europe that you are experiencing now. Actually, we are in the UK, so we have also our experiences hot weather this in June, which is a little bit awkward for London and in the UK. You can see that the temperature of UK since 1950 to 2020. This is of course showing the average. So if you can sort of draw a line, you can see that overall the past couple of decades, the temperature rises quite significantly. And a lot of climate scientists already proved that this is relevant to the climate change. And although it's a small shift, small temperature rise, but it creates a big difference. So we will have more hot weather, more heat waves in the future if we don't do anything about the climate change. So this is the temperature rise since pre-industrial level, as I mentioned earlier. It's just recorded now is 1.36 degrees. So now let's talk about the solution. So in terms of solution, one of the obvious solution is going towards renewables, because as we mostly know, it's most of this climate change and temperature is coming from the fossil-driven fuels, and burning them, that creates a lot of CO2 or greenhouse gases that cause temperature rises. So that's one of the major reasons. And going to renewable, if you look at various types of renewables, solar is by far the most abundant source that we have, is 200,000 terawatts terrestrial sunlight that we are receiving from sun. But unfortunately, the one that we are using, this is back in 2024, is a little bit more than 2 terawatts. So you can see we are only using a very tiny portion of this huge abundant source that we have. And the other parts, it's about the alternative ways that we can sort of combat the climate changes, to develop these electrochemical devices that can reduce capture the CO2 and convert them to useful products. So in that sense, we are sort of reducing the concentration of CO2 and greenhouse gases. So it's from my point of view, it needs to be a combination of these different solutions, including the renewables, the electrochemical solution, etc. So so this kind of sustainable technology can overall help us to combat climate change, and also achieving to the net zero goals by 2050. So back to solar PV. So the good news, or the challenging parts of the solar PV in the past decades was two factors from my perspective. One is the cost, one is the performance. So the combination of these two factors caused sort of either less or more sort of adoption of solar PV in our life. And you can see that the good news is the cost is coming down significantly in the past decades. And also the other part is the efficiency. We have been sort of witnessing a lot of sort of breakthrough in the field of solar photovoltaics to reach higher performance using new technology, also changing also in our sort of advanced or established silicon solar cell. So that was the reason that helped us to sort of boost the deployment of solar PV in the past sort of few years. So again, in terms of costs, we are in a good sort of shape. So even the established technology silicon is the cost has been reduced quite significantly. So this make this solar power even more sort of even cheaper in some part of the world where we have a huge sunshine, like in UAE, that even cheaper than the alternatives or conventional sources like coal. Or on the performance side, also there have been some good news, especially utilizing new technologies such as perovskite material which I'm going to talk about it in shortly. And in particular, by combining perovskite with silicon in a tandem architecture, you can also boost the performance quite significantly, even more than that of single junction. So the current record is over 34%, is very close to 35%. And the good news about this technology is not anymore just in the lab. So this has already been commercialized to some extent. Also, we are in the earliest stage at the moment, but for example, the company based in the UK, so-called Oxford Photovoltaic, already announced the news that they have sold their perovskite modules to the US market. So this is great news for the field of perovskite as well. On the other parts, we also need to think about integration of photovoltaic in different sections. So it's not just about putting our solar photovoltaics on the rooftop or having the solar farm, but also to think out of the box and talking about like building integrated photovoltaic or even vehicle integrated PVs, or in agriculture, we call it agri-photovoltaics, or even floating PV. So you can see there are so many opportunity to integrate PV in our daily life, even with the wearable electronics. So this is the way forward to sort of widespread PV in various types of application. Or sort of places. So let's talk about the technologies. So in terms of technology, as if you're from the PV field, so you're already aware that silicon is our sort of most developed PV technology out there, and it's efficient, it's reliable. On the other hand, it has its own limitation. And the cost-wise, as you can see, one of the reasons we had a huge sort of reduction in the cost was mostly related to the module cost that has reduced quite significantly in the past decades. But as you can see, it's almost plateauing the cost of the module. The changes in the cost of the module, and this means the balance of system cost is taking parts or taking over the sort of the total cost of the PV now. And the other parts is about the limitation of the production capacity for silicon, which based on the current capacity and considering the annual growth, it's about 25 terawatts. If you want to make this kind of this amount of silicon PV, it takes 170 years. So you can see it's a great technology. It will definitely play a role in the next couple of decades, but the issue is it's not fast enough to help us to combat climate change in the next couple of decades. So this means we need new technology. So this is a kind of famous PV chart from NREL, Energy Agency in US, that sort of records the maximum achieved records efficiency for different types of solar cells, different technologies over time from 1975, as you can see. And if you look at this chart, there's one technology is based on this crystal structure, which we call it perovskite, is ABX3. So it's a relatively simple, standard chemical structure. But the good thing is you can tune it very well by changing any of these elements, A, B, or X side. But on the other hand, it shows significant sort of properties for photovoltaic devices and significant very good performance. In the past decades, we were observing the emergence of this material in PV devices since 2009, and nowadays reaching over almost 27 percent. That is, as you can see, it's almost the same level as silicon photovoltaic. And the other good thing, or the other part of this chart, which is quite interesting, is the changes in the tandem structure, where we have hybrid tandems, where we combine silicon and perovskite, and can boost now over 34%. This is a little bit old. On the other hand, perovskite technology compared to other alternatives can tick all the boxes in terms of the cost, in terms of the availability of the raw materials, LCOE, efficiency. So this is a great technology that could potentially surpass some of our current PV technology, or combining with them or in tandem structure. So also bringing some new application, because it's very versatile in terms of how you deposit them and how you make them. So it could be on any substrate, like this flexible substrate. So it will reduce the transport cost and installation cost significantly for lightweight solar modules. And also it can be in any color based on the bandgap you choose for the material, and bring the application of BIPV that I mentioned earlier. But the grand challenges still remains. That's from my perspective is in three sort of categories. One is on the scalability. So depositing this material at a larger scale without compromising the performance and stability. The other part is reliability of this technology, that it can last for over 30 years. And finally, about the efficiency, how we can even boost efficiency even further to make it more sort of cost effective as well. So I've recently published this perspective talking about the future of perovskite. So I would highly recommend. But what I'm hearing mostly talking about the market penetration, which technology from my perspective could come to the market sort of first, and also how we can tackle the problem in terms of scalability, stability, performance, and sustainability. Now I'm going to talk about showing some of our research we have done in the past sort of past decade on chemical modification and developing some passivation approaches to address these grand challenges that I mentioned earlier. So before that, this is one last introductory slide to introduce this concept of luminescence efficiency. This is very important, which is relevant to the non-radiative losses in this semiconductor as well. So this is a general sort of concept of if you want to reach or maximize the performance of our optoelectronic devices, we need to maximize the luminescence efficiency. On the other way, if you want to say it in another way, is to maximize radiative recombination. And as you can see in this top chart here, so the solar cell efficiency can boost by about 4% by gaining by maximizing the luminescence efficiency. So this is a great sort of boost in the performance. And on the other hand, if you look at just for perovskite technology, the origin of losses, which we call it non-radiative losses, are mostly coming from the subgap charge carrier trap states that are mostly accumulated at grain boundaries in this material, and also coming from the ionic defects that is mostly in the shape of halide vacancies. This chart is also very important that shows the maximum voltage we can reach in different PV technologies versus the voltage that we achieve in these boxes. So the black part shows how much voltage we have achieved so far, and the red part is showing the losses from non-additive losses, and gray part is the thermodynamic loss. And it's interesting for gallium arsenide, which is the best sort of 3.5 semiconductor for PV devices, which that currently hold the records for PV, but is on the other hand super expensive to produce for the conventional application, is showing the minimum non-additive losses and maximum achievable VOC or voltage. And for perovskite, it's interesting as by tuning the composition, you can reach or minimize this red part, sort of the non-additive losses in your semiconductor. So what we have done here is, as I mentioned, so halide vacancy, which are mostly accumulated at the grain boundaries, are the major problem. So this is a simple schematic that shows how we come up with this sort of idea of adding potassium iodide into our system to maximize the luminescence efficiency. So this is a sort of a cross-sectional showing perovskite thin film cross-sectionally, and it's a very simple sort of schematic. So that shows that we have a lot of vacancy at the grain boundaries. So these white circles are showing halide vacancy. And what we have done here is by adding potassium iodide into the system, we are filling out these vacancies by extra halide we are introducing to the system. And the other sort of innovation here is to have potassium there. So potassium is helping us to block or lock the extra ion at the boundaries. Specifically, they bound with bromide and lock them up at the grain boundaries. So on the other hand, it also prevents these ions to move, which is another big problem in perovskite. So to confirm this sort of proposed mechanism here, we have done this cross-sectional TEM that shows we are actually forming this potassium and bromide phase which is also rich at the grain boundaries and interfaces. And on a follow-up work we have done utilizing this time result photoemission microscopy to locate the defects in the semiconductor. And what we found is, so the concentration of defects, it's significantly reduced, as well as we have sort of fewer spots. So these brightest spots are showing the defects in the semiconductor, in our perovskite semiconductor. And this is after potassium passivation. And the key thing is we have more sort of cleaner sort of area between the spots. So that means we have a cleaner pathway for the charges to reach the contacts. And on the other sort of big discovery of this work was to have a cleaner interface between the N-type and P-type electrodes. We think that potassium iodide addition can also help us to have a sort of a self-assembly monolayer at the interfaces with this passivation phase that can help us to reduce the non-additive recombination and boost the photoluminescent quantum in this material. So this is the devices that we made for low bandgap and large bandgap or wide bandgap devices. And in both cases, we boost the performance and also we reduce the hysteresis, which is a common effect in the perovskite devices, especially at a large or wide bandgap perovskite where we have more concentration of bromide. This is mostly well-known, studied in the perovskite field that is coming from the ion migration. And this has been almost sort of addressed by having this potassium passivation. And in another follow-up work that we have done is very briefly is we have sort of located the defects within the semiconductor and correlated with the luminescence efficiency. And a good discovery here is where we have the maximum luminescence efficiency. This is a PL map of the sort of showing the surface of the perovskite, where we have the maximum luminescence, as you can see based on this chart here. The defects, there's no defects there, so the concentration defect is too low. And on the other hand, when we have low luminescence efficiency, this part of area in our semiconductor, we have higher concentration of defects, these blue spots. And we also overlay them with the apologies for that, overlay them with the AFM to understand the location of the defects. And we found that the defects are mostly present at grain boundaries. All right, so I hope I haven't lose my laser pointer, but it's all right. Now it's bringing me to the focus of this talk, which is about indoor photovoltaic and how we boost the performance by utilizing this triple passivation reassembly method. So utilizing this triple passivation is this three sort of passivation material that we have used in the structure of indoor photovoltaic. So a brief introduction about indoor PV and why they're important. So what is the difference between indoor and outdoor is mostly the concentration of the light that our devices are experiencing. As you can see in the indoor condition, the intensity of the light at different places are relatively different. So this is showing in a house, for example, this is in a workplace. And in different situations, you can see we have ranging from like 200 lux or even 50 lux at low area, low height, or to like 1,000 lux in this sort of area, or even sometimes more than 1,000 lux in some workplaces. But in the new technologies, PV technology that are developing, like based on organic material or perovskite, they are mostly working on indoor condition as well, so they can generate the electricity even at indoor condition. So as you can imagine, the spectrum of the light is quite different because the light in the indoor condition is coming from the sensitive light, like lamp, either LEDs or fluorescent lamp, and their sort of spectrum is quite different. So that the meaning of that is we need to optimize our semiconductor in a way that maximize collection of the indoor light. And if you look at different technology as well on this chart over here, so you can see that people have been using on different types of material for indoor PV, like ranging from organic photovoltaic, which is one of the popular options, or dye-sensitized solar cell, or amorphous silicon, and nowadays coming to perovskite and also 3.5 semiconductors. So perovskite has been quite interesting for indoor as well. As you can see, you can reach a quite high efficiency with perovskite solar cell as well, is almost higher than the other technology. This is showing the maximum sort of almost about 60%, close to 60% in the indoor light condition. And this is also showing the number of publication over the years. As you can see, perovskite has a little part at the beginning back in 2019, and nowadays is almost surpassing organic photovoltaic. So OPV was being quite sort of there for indoor PV since for a while, but as you can see, perovskite nowadays is surpassing. And in terms of the market, there's a huge market for indoor PV, especially for wireless sensor network, indoor applications, as you can see over here, to charge these sort of tiny electronic devices here, or for IoT devices, which is a lot of connected devices, which we are already observing, and this will be the future of sort of Internet of Things. And you can see it's a billion dollar market, and it's keep rising will keep rising over the years. So the market is huge for indoor PV. And in terms of application, you can see that these are in terms of how much power you need for various application. Obviously, for some tiny sensor, you only need in the terms of nanowatts. But in some case of larger devices, you might need some sort of, in the case of milliwatts for this mouse or this keyboard. So coming back to the perovskite, so basically to optimize as you can imagine, the spectrum of the light, as I mentioned earlier, is different here. So therefore, you need to optimize your semiconductor as well as your devices that fit very well with the indoor spectrum. That means you need to optimize your device structure. Also, you need to optimize your perovskite bandgap, perovskite material, and also the interface optimization. So the challenge for the perovskite specifically is about the phase instability as well as the bandgap instability. Because to best match these light spectrum of indoor, you need to basically go for the large or wide bandgap perovskite, which to maximize the absorption of the indoor PV sort of light spectrum. And that means you need to increase the amount of sort of bromide in your system. So that have been shown is quite problematic in the literature, that even in terms of the growth of the perovskite, when you go to the high bromide, you will have a harder job to make a good thin film of perovskite without any pinholes, as you can see here, or more homogeneous. And the other issue is the segregation of different phases. When we have higher percentage of bromide into our system, then the halide segregation become more sort of significant. And on the when I talk about segregation, that means the iodide rich region and bromide rich. So it will form two different phases. One is based in the iodide, one is or rich in iodide, rich in bromide. And the other problem is the bandgap instability. So that means this is a PDS spectrum that shows before and after elimination of the perovskite thin film. The bandgap is changing quite significantly, and this is also observed in the PL over time. You can see that it's the PL spectrum is changing quite significantly, and this is mostly because of the ion migration happening and also segregated to two phases, and sort of the emission is mostly coming from the sort of the low bandgap regions. So now our sort of strategy to solve the problem of this bandgap instability in the large bandgap perovskite or wide bandgap perovskite is to utilizing triple passivation material. So I mentioned it earlier. So these are the three passivation material that we are using, but we are not using all of them in the same place. So we are using it at different sort of different region. So we are using, for example, this PEACl at the top interface, the rubidium chloride at the bottom interface between the perovskite and ETL. And finally, the DMAI we are utilizing inside the precursor of the perovskite, so inside the perovskite layer. And what we have observed here is this TPT or triple passivation treatment help us to improve both crystallinity and also optical properties. So you can see we have reduced the full width half maximum of the main perovskite peaks. And we also observe a slight shift in the major XRD peak that shows mostly probably is because of the rubidium diffusion into the perovskite. And we haven't seen any change in the bandgap of the perovskite in this triple passivation strategy. So the bandgap of perovskite is 1.75 eV. And in terms of the this sort of TPT or triple passivation strategy help us to significantly reduce the phase segregation and also enhance that sort of also reduce the trap state density within the perovskite and also at the interfaces. So this is the PL. So we have observed a stronger PL intensity for when we call target. Target means we are utilizing all the triple passivation in the perovskite devices or thin film structure, and the control means the reference without any passivation. And you can see that without the passivation, the PL the bandgap is not stable; it's changing over time. With the passivation, is almost no changes in the sort of location of the PL. The PL intensity is significantly higher, and even at different temperature, you can see that trend is the same. And also, we observe a longer carrier lifetime for the TPT sort of thin film. And the other aspect we observe is enhanced morphology of the perovskite. I mentioned earlier that this high bromide content, you normally have a challenge to form a good perovskite thin film. And also with this triple passivation strategy, we observe a larger grain size as well, average grain size. As you can, as evident from these SEM images, from control to large, from the TPT approach, we have reached a larger grain size. And also a smoother surface. You can see this, the surface roughness is significantly reduced in the TPT. And in terms of the hydrophobicity, also the contact angle, you can see we have a higher contact angle for the target film. That means we have enhanced the moisture resistance of the perovskite thin film as well. So now let's talk about the distribution of these elements, as well as this passivation material that we have added to the system. So in terms of the cation parts, it's mostly rubidium plus, DMAI plus, and PEA plus. So you can see that this is the Fluxim measurement we have done. It's like a sort of the topology, the 3D topologies you can see, as well as the distribution from the surface. And obviously for the formamidinium and lead and sort of and methylammonium, the distribution is almost even, or sort of homogeneous within the perovskite structure. But if you look at the passivation material, we observe a very nice sort of distribution. That the PEA plus is, as expected, has high concentration at the top interface where we introduced them. But on the other hand, the rubidium plus has higher concentration also at the HDL interface, which you won't expect that because we implement rubidium at the ETL interface. This is quite interesting observation that we had, and also for DMOA plus is mostly within the interface, and also the bulk of the material as we put it inside the perovskite. So also this Fluxim and XPS measurement that we have done shows that the ion migration also to some extent surpassed. And we also measure the KPFM, which we look at the surface potential of the material, that shows a more sort of homogeneous distribution of this, the CPD, or surface potential difference, in the target film. And interestingly, we observe an increase in the work function of the perovskite from 4.5 to 5.05 electron volts. So that means perovskite become more P-type. And especially at the top interface, which is the HDL interface. So that means we have a better band alignment of the perovskite with the HDL, which, as you can see in this schematic over here. So basically, we have a more a better charge collection from the perovskite to the contact. So that's the meaning of better band alignment. So and also a more homogeneous surface potential within the film means improved uniformity within the film, as well as reducing the surface defects and recombination. All right, so now to better understand the performance of the device, so actually we make the solar cell out of it, and we measure the wide bandgap solar cell. We measure it under one sun. We also measure it under indoor lights. So we have utilized this 1000 lux as a standard in the literature. And you can see that for the target one is significantly enhanced in terms of both VOC and also JSC. And overall PCE has enhanced under indoor light condition for the target. And for the one sun as well, you can see that we have a significant lower hysteresis, and both enhancing the JC, and specifically for VOC, a significant enhancement for the wide bandgap perovskite, which is reaching over 20%. And for the indoor PCE, or power conversion efficiency, is almost 38%. And EQE is also showing our spectral response of the devices are matching, and the currents and our currents from EQE is matching the current that we measure using our solar simulator. And we also utilize Paios from Fluxim. I mean, this is a great kit we have sort of we got from Fluxim to sort of measure various sort of measurements ranging from impedance to IMPS, IMVS, which I'll show in the next slide. But let's start from here. So panel D is showing the SCLC measurement for electron-only devices, and it shows a significant reduction in the sort of in the sort of in the building potential, and you can see that we have a better sort of charge transport in the target devices as per the SCLC. So we have 2 times lower trap density and suppress leakage current. This is the dark JV measurements. You can see that especially at the sort of for the target sample at 0 volts, you can see this, it's almost orders of magnitude lower current. So that means we have a better sort of we have reduced the trap density quite significantly. And this is the JV at different light intensity that shows the ideality factor, and we have a better sort of a slope for the target sample versus the reference sample. And here is the impedance measurement. As you can see, we have significantly lower recombination resistance for the target sample and higher, significantly higher recombination resistance for the target sample and lower series resistance for the target sample as well. And the building potential is higher for the target sample as well. So it's 1.14 volt versus 1.09. So this is overall showing that we have reduced the trap density and recombination, and we enhances the charge extraction, and which all in all help us to boost the performance of the solar cell in both indoor and also one sun condition. And lastly, in our PLQE of the devices shows that for the target is over 2% versus 0.5% for the control sample. So this is also support the reduction in the non-relative recombination. And my last slide on this work is it's showing about the impacts of this TPT on TPV and TPC measurement. This is TPC, transient photovoltage, and transient photocurrents. And as you can see, in both cases, we have a better performance for the target device. So in the TPC, we have higher charge extraction efficiency. As you can see, it's 1.16 microsecond versus almost 9 microsecond. And for the TPV, we have a better carrier lifetime, charge lifetime. So it's almost 3 times than the control for the target. And this is IMBS and IMPS, IMPS and IMBS. As you can see, better performance for the target sample in both cases. That shows, again, overall, we have a reduced density of the trap. And also we have a better charge collection efficiency in both interfaces for electrons and also for holes. And finally, in terms of stability, we have reached better stability for the perovskites with triple passivation versus the control at higher temperature at like over 50 degrees. And also at room temperature, as well as this is for unencapsulated devices at 55 degrees. And you can see that it's over 80% of its initial performance after 300 hours without an encapsulation. And for the target, it's almost reaching 30% of its initial efficiency. All right, so I think I have a few more minutes to talk about very briefly about the scalability, and then we can go to the questions. So on the stability, further stability and scalability of this perovskite technology, we also works on the making the perovskite modules. One of the challenges, if you want to pass the stability test, especially at high temperature and high humidity, is about replacing the whole transport layer, which is the common one, which is a spirometat. Which has a low glass transition temperature, and replacing it with the polymeric HDL help us to pass all the stability tests at 85 degrees and 85% humidity, and at larger scale based on the ISOS protocol. So that was the summary of this work, that we were optimizing which molecular weight of PTAA works the best. And finally, in this work, we also play with the dimensionality of the perovskite to make the device more stable. So one of the the key themes in the field of perovskite is how we can mix the 2D phase of the perovskite with 3D, because 2D shows much more stable compared to the 3D phase, but on the other hand, 3D phase is shows higher performance. So one strategy is to mix the 2D and 3D, and either with in multi-layer or in the bulk. So, but the problem is that normally it's challenging when you have an extra layer of 2D, or you have some mismatch on the crystallinity. So, what the approach that we use here is we utilize self-assembled seeds of 2D material in the perovskite 3D precursor, and that helps us to form 3D perovskite around the 2D perovskite, as supported by our calculation as well. And we observe the 2D phase in the experimental method we use in DLS and also in the PL as well. And overall, it helps us to enhance the grain size, as well as higher PCE, and more importantly, more stability. As you can see, these are the thin film stability, and these are the device stability, significantly better, even at large size as well. All right, and very briefly, it's very important about the perovskite technology is that you can utilize various different methods to deposit them, and this is a nice review that we have done to show the benefits and disadvantages of various deposition techniques, from a slot die to inkjet to blade coating and also to PVD. And finally, one quick news is I've been sort of collaborating with this company in terms of Phoenix Solar to make the perovskite at larger scale. And this is sort of some equipment that have been used to make this the panel as well as the module. So using the largest slot die coating, laser scribing, and VCD. As well as the ALD. So basically nowadays you can actually patch the mass production techie line of perovskite fabrication, perovskite sort of modular panel in the sort of 100 megawatts capacity, or nowadays even I'm sure it's more than 100 megawatt now, or you can also find that. And the cell size you can make using this techie line is 0.6 to 1.2 meters. So this is actually showing this the outcome of this this techie line. So basically this is a huge panel, as you can see, 1.2 meter height and 0.6 meter wide of the lens. And you can see that it's formed very well, and it shows the performance in the module side is over 24% now. In the panel side is over 20, and in the tandem sides for the panel is over 33. So it's a huge achievement for the perovskite field that nowadays we can make the large area modules and panels that can pass the sort of stability tests and being used in the real world application. So I think I passed my time, so I'll pass the conclusion. And I would like to thank all my collaborators at the University of Cambridge, at Italy in Rome, and in SWPU, and Phoenix Solar, and all the funding as well, and all the collaborators at UCL, and especially Fluxim for this kind of invitation. And we have this Paios equipment in our lab, which has been very useful, and many of our projects are using this equipment, and it's been very sort of insightful for us to understand the charge carrier mechanism within the perovskite solar cell devices, as well as LEDs, which I haven't talked about, maybe in another webinar. Thank you very much, and happy to take any question.
Thanks a lot, Mojtaba. This was an excellent talk. Learned a lot, also the great introduction on perovskite solar cells. And I've been very pleased to see that you exploited Paios so much, and the results look astonishing. Thanks a lot. I can start with the first question. I didn't get what's the idea behind using these three different molecules sequentially to improve the efficiency of the perovskite solar cells. And if this method is a general method to improve the efficiency of these materials, and not only for indoor photovoltaics. I've seen also that outside at one sun, the solar cells are improved, but can you explain me this a little bit better?
Oh, sure, of course. Let me just make it a little bit larger for you. So yes, so what we have been using this is for three different reasons. We are using these three different molecules. So the first one is PEACl, which we are using at the interface of electron transport layer with perovskite. So one of the reasons that you have heard about the inclusion of chloride into the perovskite is normally chloride or halide can help you to make a better perovskite in terms of the growth mechanism. And for the large bandgap perovskite, this is a huge problem, and how you can form it in a homogeneous and sort of not without any sort of pinholes, etc. And this rubidium chloride one of the function of this rubidium chloride at this interface is for helping with the growth of the perovskite. The other aspect is about the rubidium, which, as I showed in the Fluxim, is actually penetrating and sort of accumulating at the HDL side mostly, and help us to build this passivation phase to surpass the recombination. Because I haven't shown the result here, but between the HDL and ETL sort of interface, we have shown that HDL is more problematic one. And normally when we add HDL, you reduce the luminescence efficiency significantly compared to ETL. And this rubidium is playing a role not only there in the rubidium chloride, so not only in the ETL, but also in the HDL side by this penetration. The other passivation molecule we are using is DMAI. So this is the passivation sort of molecule, as you can see over here, small molecule. So we are using inside the perovskite precursor. So this has been shown, it has a great impact on the wide bandgap perovskite, specifically designed for that. And it helps us to sort of prevent the ion migration, especially within the sort of by helping having a better sort of or passivating the defects at the interfaces, especially at the grain boundaries, and also providing excess halide into the system. And finally, the PEACl, another chloride-based passivation material on top, is helping us to passivate the defects at the top surface specifically. And again, the PEACl as well has a high concentration as the HDL side as well. So that was the reason, and it actually works for not only indoor but also for the one-sun, so the wide bandgap perovskite for the one-sun, which is actually good for the tandem architecture as well. So basically, it works for both. It can be applied to the other perovskite bandgap as well, but you need to be careful in terms of tuning the concentration you're using, tuning how you're playing with the work function as well, because another mechanism of enhancement was tuning the work function. As you can see, we shows more p-type properties of the top surface of the perovskite using KPFM. So that means a better alignment with the HDL as well. Sorry for the
measurement that you perform with Paios. You demonstrated that there is a reduction of the density of the traps. But do you know which traps you reduce the most? The interfaces or in the bulk?
Right, that's
slide 39.
39, yeah, perfect. Yes. Yes, for the TPV, TPC, as well as, so basically using the Paios, it helps us to look at or differentiate these. So we think it helps us to reduce traps, not only at the interface, but also in the bulk as well. Okay. So this we can get from, so TPV and TPC, you can see we have a higher sort of, the higher lifetime of the carrier. So that means, we reduce a bulk trap or sort of non-relative recombination. So this is mostly related to non-relative recombination, and we also, on the other hand, we have a sort of faster sort of charge sort of the carrier transport, because these are all the device measurement. And the IMPS and IMVS help us to understand a faster charge collection efficiency. So the indirect meaning of that means we have lower trap density at the interface as well. That leads to higher or faster charge collection at the both electron and hole interfaces.
Yeah, thanks. There is a question from Clara. Thanks for the very nice presentation. Curious about the IS spectra. If the passivation is mainly controlling the ion dynamics, why the IS is not performing the response at lower frequencies?
Is it referring to which? Is it the IMPS? Which figure?
The impedance.
Impedance measurements.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. That's a very good question. Thanks very much. So from the impedance, I think what we get is mostly to extract the recombination resistance as well as the series resistance. And what we found here is when we have this TPT or triple passivation approach, we maximize the recombination resistance. So that means in total, we have less non-relative losses, and the recombination resistance is higher. So that means we have a preferred sort of pathways for the charges to reach the contacts with minimum concentration of the recombination, non-relative recombination. And on the other hand, the series resistance reduced quite significantly. So that means we have less sort of resistance for the charges against to reach the contacts. On the migration side, we mostly refer it to the bandgap stability. It's more sort of a direct observation for the ion migration, I would say, and because if you have ion migration phase segregation, that will definitely shows up in your PL, because in that case, the luminescence normally, if you have two phases of large gap and low gap, the luminescence you get from your semiconductor will normally comes from the lower gap, as observed extensively in the field. So, and this is the case actually in the control sample. You can see that over time, so the PL is keep moving from large sort of bandgap to lower bandgap. So that means there is a ion migration, and then at the end, phase segregation in the perovskite happening. And once we have the target, you can see that almost no changes. So that means, to some extent, the ion migration has been suppressed.
Yeah. They're asking you, Also, rubidium as a heavy alkali material will modify phase at the surface. How can we determine the penetration depth of this treatment in the bulk?
How we can, I missed the second part. What was?
How can we determine the penetration depth of this treatment in the bulk?
Sure, that's a very good question. So we have utilized this Fluxim measurement that can give you an elemental map of your material cross-sectionally. So this B panel B is showing that the concentration of different elements, including rubidium, from the surface until to the from the sort of top surface onto the to the bulk, deep into the bulk, and you can see that it's a very sort of a surprising discovery because we weren't expecting rubidium to be appear at high concentration at the top surface, where we added at the bottom surface. As you can see, this is a clear sort of experimental observation that shows that rubidium is highly accumulated at the HDL side. And we think this might happen due to the heat, sort of the annealing step of the passivation that can cause rubidium to move from the bottom to top and help us to passivate that surface as well. So, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist at the bottom surface. It's just a matter of the concentration. So it has high concentration at top and lower concentration at the bottom, and it has also some concentration in the bulk as well. So it's sort of a linear. It's kind of a linear distribution based on the Fluxim measurement.
Thanks. That was a great reply. You even replied to the next question. They were asking you exactly why, if you're modifying in the bottom layer with rubidium chloride, Fluxim is showing the rubidium is located at the surface of the perovskite. So that's,
yes,
I think
exactly.
you already explained that. There's another one. Adding DMAI-based passivator, is there compressive strain in the perovskite lattice?
I haven't shown the data for that, but yes. So the DMAI, the other aspects is help us to release this strain in the perovskite crystal structure. We have done actually a measurement. Unfortunately, I didn't put it here because of the time limitation. But yes, it helps us to release the strain within the perovskite structure based on our sort of GXRD that we have done. And it's also, I mean, DMAI is, we are not the first who have used the DMAI. So basically, DMAI has been used, especially for the first time in Michael Gratzel lab by Dr. Lucas. He tried DMAI in perovskite, also at the interface, and they found that DMAI can help us to release the strain and sort of have a better crystal structure within the perovskite. So yes, the short answer is yes, it helps us to release the strain.
Great, thanks a lot. I think our time is over. I really appreciate this talk on indoor photovoltaics, also because I would like to mention that Fluxim is part of this very important project called Mentor Doctoral Network, where we will have in the network 16 different PhD students developing indoor photovoltaics, and us at Fluxim developing new instruments for indoor photovoltaics. So it was a great topic also for us. I thank you a lot, Mojtaba, once more, and I would like to thank everyone to stay here till the end, and we'll see you after the summer in 1 month and a half, more or less. Sure. So thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Daniela, for the invitation, and thanks everyone for staying until the last part of the talk. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thanks.
Hope it was useful. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.